Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network, brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. We come to you on the Mike Francesa channel, on the Bet Rivers Network, on YouTube, on this Monday, as the Jets have named a new hierarchy. It's all seashells and balloons today, as the late Al McGuire used to say, which means, that everything's wonderful. Woody gets up there and gives you how his gut was that these guys are the future. They overwhelmed me. Well, of course. Well, if you weren't like over the moon about somebody, you wouldn't hire them. So every one of these press conferences is the same, and they mean absolutely nothing. Nothing. I don't need to hear the general manager tell me about the great tradition of the Jets, which is all nonsense. We all know that. Or the fact that there's so much energy in the building. We know that's nonsense. We know the whole thing's nonsense. They're a terrible organization that is looking and praying and hoping that finally they have hit on somebody that can take them out of the abyss. That's it. Does Aaron Glenn, at this stage of his life, has he earned the right to be a head coach? Yes. Does that mean he's going to be a good head coach? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. We don't know. Flip a coin. He's a coordinator. Coordinators are hit and miss. We've been down this road 1,000 times. No one knows. No one knows. The best coordinators have sometimes been the worst head coaches. Coordinators who nobody gave another thought to turned out to be great head coaches. Who knows? You don't know about a coordinator. Have they hit on the right executive? I don't know. We're going to find out. It's now their baby. It's now they have the ball. They got the chance to put the team together. We'll see where it goes. I do think Glenn's going to be a coach where you're going to have to, play hard and practice hard and do the things that a coach should do. I think he was brought up that way. I think he understands that. I think he considers himself a Parcells, Sean Payton, Dan Campbell disciple, which are all part of the Parcells tree. So, I think that's positive. I do. I believe in that kind of coaching. But they got to make the right decisions. They got to get the right players. Now, the first thing I wanted to know was Aaron Glenn, and we know they're going to talk to him. That's all we know so far. And we know that Woody said he left it in their hands. So he's not going to make the decision because he probably hates Aaron Glenn, but he's going to let that go. Let them make the decision. Now, we'll see where that takes us. The right decision is to keep him and Devontae Adams. That's the right decision. Now let's see where they go from there. The other thing I want to know is who's in charge. This was a very unusual setup. The general manager, the head coach gets hired, and then the general manager gets hired. So I would seem to say, now, according to people who told me it came up, said they both will report to Woody. The thing you want to know is this. When they disagree, okay, I'll give you a scenario. They're playing better next year. They're got off to a good start. They kept Glenn, they kept Adams, they're playing better. Aaron Glenn decides he wants to trade next year's the 26th number 2, second round pick in 26 for a player right before the trading deadline. And the GM doesn't want to do it. Okay. Who breaks the tie? Technically, Woody does. You don't want Woody to break the tie. You want one guy in charge. Okay, most places are set up a little differently. Usually the general manager is in charge. So I'll give you an example. Back in the days when Parcells coached the Giants, if he wanted a player and Tom Boyster, who was head of personnel, wanted a different player, George Young would make the decision. Right? Later in his career, if Bill wanted a trade like he did for Otis Anderson, and George didn't really want it, you can kind of go around, go to the owner. I mean, you can do that kind of stuff when you've been there a while. That's different. They'd already won. So the bottom line is, right now, I'd say edge Aaron Glenn. I think he's going to get what he wants. I think the GM knows that Aaron's going to get. So usually one guy is a step ahead. And I think right now it looks to me like Aaron Glenn's a step ahead. Got hired first. He's the name. I think the other guy's happy to be here. So I'm going to say Glenn's in charge. That's because it's important because somebody's got to break ties. They're in the draft room and they don't agree. Somebody's got to say, here's who we're taking. Okay, there's a big debate in the draft room. Somebody's got to step up and take authority and say, this is what we're doing. There's a player. Is he cut? Is he not cut? He's a guy we have some money invested in, or he was a high draft pick. I want to cut him. If you want to cut him, fine. Does he get to cut him? If he's the coach and he's in charge, he gets to cut him. If he's not, there are times where GMs have made first round picks stay on the roster for extra years to make them look good. I mean, so you get stuff like that. It comes up. So I always want to know who's in charge of the organization. So right now, I would say Glenn's got the upper hand. So I think he will be the final decision. That's what it looks like to me. Now, of course, they're going to work in concert. Everything's going to be wonderful. They're never going to disagree, which is all nonsense. We all know that. They're human beings. They're going to disagree. If they don't disagree, you don't want them there. They're going to disagree. You want them to have good opinions. If they're going to have arguments. They should have arguments. Now, I still want to know about the staff, which I don't know yet, which would really tell me more about everything than I learned today. I learned nothing today. I watched the press conferences. Hey, that Aaron's rah-rah and he wants to be here. Well, fine. That's cool. That's all great. That he talked about, he wants to complete what they started, in the Denver AFC Championship game. Well, heck, listen, that game bothered me for years. All right. I was there. And I was dumb enough after they blocked the punt and went up 10-0. And I knew Atlanta had already upset Minnesota. And I knew Atlanta had no chance of beating either team in the Super Bowl. I said to Rob, we're going to the Super Bowl. I wish I could take those words and rip them out of my tongue, because from that moment on, the Jets did nothing right. Okay? Nothing right in that game. Absolutely nothing. They had guys who were the most sure-handed guys in the world drop balls, fumble the ball, make bad reads on punt return. I mean, all the guys that were his guys, Byers and Meggett, and just awful. And they lost 23-10. It all started with a half waggle by Elway in the wind. It was very windy. Vinny played pretty well. It was very windy. And Elway came out on a half waggle and threw a bomb, hit it down the field for about 45, 50 yards, and good night, the lights. Next thing you know, we were driving back to the airport, and it was 23-10. So that game stuck in my craw for a long time, because they would have won the Super Bowl. They would have killed Atlanta. And Denver went there and killed Atlanta, which we know. So that's the way it went. Now, so did I get anything out of today? I didn't hear one thing about the staff, which I wanted to know about. See, if I was talking to Glenn today, I want to know about who's in charge, who makes the final decision. I obviously want to know about Aaron Rodgers, and then I want to know about his staff. I didn't learn anything about his staff today. So that's what I'm looking for. Today you got, the energy and the tradition. There's no tradition. There's no goodwill in that building. They're a bunch of clowns who can't do anything right. That all has to change. What he should have said today is, I'm gutting the building because that's the only thing worth doing. But you don't want to gut the players, because that roster is not bad. It's not a 5-win roster. It's a 10-win roster. He's walking into a lot of talent for a job that's open and had a coach fired that early in the season. This is a good roster. They have a lot of good players. They need leadership. They need direction. They need fine-tuning. They need coaching, and more coaching. They haven't had any coaching. I was sitting there bewildered to think that Saleh was going to be a head coach. And I don't want to be bashing Saleh, but let's be honest. How could he be a head coach? You watched him coach here. Now is back in San Francisco, and he can jump up and down the sideline as the defensive coordinator, and he'll be happy because that's what he does. That's who he is. Now he's back in his element, and he'll do a good job because that's what he is. He's a defensive coordinator. That's what Rex is, a defensive coordinator. Hope Aaron Glenn isn't a defensive coordinator. You hope he's a head coach. He might be. He might be. He's been taught the right way. I like that he goes back and sits with Al Groh, who's a very studious football man. Not a great leader, but a very studious football man. And that was nice of Al doing that with him. But I could see Al loves football, and Al loves, to do things that expand his mind. He's a very bright man. And I think that works well. I think that was a good idea. Al would help him a lot. Al's a very smart football man. Very smart. Always was. And a heck of a nice guy. One of the greatest head coaches. He's a nice guy. You got to be you got to have a little nasty in you to be a good head coach. That's all there is to it. And he learned that from Campbell. He learned that from Peyton, and you sure hope he learned it from Bill. Now, I still want to know about the staff. That is eminently important to me. I want them to keep Rodgers. Rodgers has football left in him, but I want Adams to stay, absolutely. Okay? Let's get to a couple other things. Number one, I'm done with the Tush push. Done with it. I want it outlawed. I want a rule put in, and I know the competition committee was fooling with this last year. Do it. Okay? No ball carrier can be pulled or pushed by another player on his team. Case closed. That's over with. It's stupid. What we watched in the Washington game yesterday, with them trying to run the tush push and them jumping over the top, I mean, it was not football. Let's just do away with it. Okay? It's gotten silly. Now from 2 yards out, we just get together and it's like a rugby scrum. I mean, let's just play football again. And let's do away with that. I'm really done with it. I really am. I don't think it's good. I think it's boring. I really do. They can have it in the Super Bowl. God bless them. And then let's just move on from it. Number two from yesterday's Bills game. I got to know two things. I talked to Nance today. We went over a lot of the different plays. Neither of us could agree. Neither of us could really tell for sure, but we both thought that the interception that was the non-interception that was ruled a reception by where the ball actually hit the ground. We both thought that. I thought that. He thought that. Number two, there's two things I want to know from the NFL, and I'm going to be digging on this all week because I got these on my mind. Number one, can the NFL please tell us and illustrate to us with video evidence how they decided on the highly controversial fourth down play, which probably cost the Buffalo Bills any chance to go to the Super Bowl? I know they had the ball one more time, so they could have scored again, but they could have gone up 8 there. How did they decide where to put the football? The official who ran in was clearly blocked completely from any view. And how did he decide where he was? On one side, you got the guy running, making it a first down. To us, it looked like a first down. To even the Kansas City Chiefs fans who were watching with us, it looked like a first down. I thought it was a first down. Nance thought it was a first down. Romo thought it was a first down. Sterator thought it was a first down. Everybody I've talked to thought it was a first down. How is it not a first down? And how did they decide where to put the ball? That's what I want to know. What was the mechanism? Please explain to me exactly what view the official had and how you guys decided, how the referee decided that he was taking his spot and not the other guy who had the ball on the other side. When I don't think either of them could see where the ball was from where they were. So please explain to me how that play was officiated. We'd all like to know. See, here's the problem with yesterday's game. There has been this growing sentiment. And listen, I've always liked the Chiefs. I've rooted for the Chiefs many times during this run. If you know my show from years past, I always had a relationship with Andy Reid. He's been a friend for many years. I love Andy Reid. I've always had great respect for the Chiefs, and I still do. But here's the deal. There has been this growing, overwhelming feeling with NFL fans everywhere that the Chiefs get every break. And then you go into yesterday's game and the Chiefs get every break. Every call that was in any way either the wrong call or controversial went against the Bills. Every single one. And I picked Kansas City. So it's not like I was a Bill guy. I wasn't. And I have to admit, they got screwed yesterday by every call. Every call, not one call went their way. Not one. So that's why there's this growing thing that somehow this is all. And listen, I hate officiating conspiracy theories. I hate them. Usually it's a guy who bet a lot of money on the other team and lost and complains. I know that. I don't like them. But I got to admit, I watched them spot the ball on that play. I thought that Allen got a first down, and then I watched the guy spot it, and I'm saying, where did he come from to spot it? He couldn't see anything. Why was his spot gospel? They reviewed the play with Worthy, where I understand there was a penalty on the play anyway, so it was going to come back and be a 5-yard penalty against the Bills anyway. Now, explain to me on that play, one, who has the ball when they hit the ground. It seemed like the defender did, not Worthy. Give Worthy credit for ripping it out of his hands. That's his job. But I thought he ripped it out when he was on the ground. Plus, I think the ball hit the ground. There were 2 things out of 3 that could have happened. 2 of them were better for the Bills, and they got the one that didn't work. And then on the Kincaid drop, and anyone who's comparing the Andrews drop to the Kincaid drop is a clown. How are you going to compare a guy who is wide open and 2 yards from the ball and dropping it to a guy who is down in traffic 40 yards down the field on the ground and trying to catch a ball on 4th down on his knees? How is that? Now, listen, Kincaid could have and should have caught the ball, but you cannot compare the 2 plays. One's a little more difficult than the other. The amazing thing is, how did Allen ever get the ball anywhere near an offensive player, considering he couldn't see anything? If that had been caught, it would have been like Eli's play, especially if it led to a game-winning touchdown. But there was the idea that there was a flag on the field. If you remember, the chyron that says flag lit up. The networks have a guy on the field, and he thought there was he yelled penalty flag. So he told the booth there was a penalty flag. So Nance and Rome both said there was a penalty flag because they were told there was a penalty flag, except Jim couldn't find a penalty flag, and none of us could find a penalty flag. Was there a penalty flag thrown on that play? I've had people tell me there was, and it was picked up. I want to know if there was actually somebody give me a video evidence that a flag was on the field, or was there really no flag thrown on the Kincaid drop? I don't know if there was or wasn't. I want the NFL to tell me if it was or wasn't with video evidence. So I want 2 things from the NFL this week. I want to know if the flag was thrown on that play and picked up, because the flag chyron came up on the network. On radio, they both called it a penalty. On TV, they both called it a penalty because they both were told that it was a penalty. Was there a flag thrown and picked up? That's what I want to know. The other thing I want to know is how they officiated, how they made the decision where the ball should be spotted on a play that may have very well kept the Buffalo Bills out of the Super Bowl. Now, I'm not saying they would have won the game there, but it was an enormous play in the game. And I haven't talked to one person who didn't think he had a first down. And I thought he had a first down. And all three announcers, including Steratore, thought he had a first down. And Steratore's got a good eye. I mean, he was a great official. Steratore was a great official. So I want an answer. I'm tired of this stuff with the NFL. And the NFL, they are screwing up the playoffs right and left. All this stuff with the Mahomes stuff, so they placate. Oh, next year we'll use video review to tell us whether or not it was on the slides with the quarterback. Let's do that. I mean, these 15-yard roughing plays have gotten a little crazy. They called one last week on Mahomes when he doesn't get hit. And then they called one yesterday against Saquon Barkley, who all he does is go for 60 and 70-yard touchdowns. He didn't even have both feet out of bounds. He gets knocked out of bounds. They call it a roughing penalty. What do you want him to do? Let him go? So he could go down the sideline for 70 yards for a touchdown? He didn't even have both feet out of bounds. His foot was in the air. How is that a penalty? I mean, what are you supposed to do? Let him go? Oh, he might be out of bounds. Let me let him go. Oh, he's not out of bounds. Bye. Used to be football. Now it's a clown show. The officiating is dreadful. The more they put more mechanisms in to improve the officiating, the more they screw it up. Straighten the officiating out. And I want to see video evidence that shows me he didn't make that first down. Because I think he made it, and so does America. I mean, enough already. You get enough seeing the commissioner give 2 tickets and say, here's your tickets for the game. Everybody else can pay $42,000. I got a thing I just got an email. You know what? If I want to go and I want a hotel for 3 days, and I can sit in the nosebleeds for the $11,000 a person, or if I want to go and they'll give me a hotel and they'll give me a flight somewhere, and probably with 3 stops, and they'll give me a hotel somewhere within 100 miles of New Orleans. That's for a bottom rate. If I want to upgrade the hotel or upgrade the ticket, I can upgrade the ticket and then start paying $40,000 a person for the trip. And the NFL's running these trips now. How about straightening out your officiating? Listen, we all love football. Even Goodell can't screw up. Nobody can screw up football. There's no human who can screw up the NFL. It's impossible. It's impossible. It works on its own inertia. You can have bad owners. You can have bad front office people. You can have bad NFL people. And you got some great NFL people. But you can have a bad commission. You can have anything. And the NFL will still thrive because it's the NFL. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. It is its own. It goes on its own power. But let's get it right. Enough already. I want to see video that shows me how 2 things: that Allen came up short, and that I want to see how that official decided where that spot was and why they took his spot over the other guy's spot. Clearly, had 2 spots. The guy's running from 2 different directions. One had him having a first down. One had him not having a first down. They picked the guy that didn't have the first down. Why? He had no view of the play. None. This is not going to rest till we get some video evidence. Yeah, it'll be coming. You'll all be getting Super Bowl tickets in the mail. You'll all be getting Super Bowl tickets in the mail before that happens. All right, let's get some emails. Mike Francesa podcast at gmail.com. We got a busy week this week leading up to the Super Bowl. We got all the Super Bowl stuff. Right now, Kansas City's 1.5 favorite. And let me tell you this. This is going to be a tough matchup for the Chiefs because the Eagles have, led, of course, by Carter, who's a great player. They have both linemen on both sides of the ball, especially on the defensive side of the ball in this case, to take on the offense, and guys throughout that defense that can play, and they are going to pressure Mahomes. You got to double team cover every play, or he will wreak havoc on the game. This is going to be a very tough matchup for the Chiefs. Now, Andy will be ready. Mahomes will be ready. And listen, this is not sour grapes about who won the game, because let me say this from a football standpoint. Andy Reid is brilliant. His play calling, his sequencing, his planning, and his execution. His execution, Mahomes' timing, Mahomes' execution is utterly brilliant. Mahomes' timing, his decision on when to run and when to pass, his ability to read the play correctly, Andy's sequencing of the play. You knew another team comes in at that point and has a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, somewhere in between, and they have to make one more play. They're thinking, do I run it, run the clock down? Do I do this? They basically don't know what they want to do. Some will run it. Some will throw a lousy pass. Some will throw it down the field. You know what? Throw an incompletion. You'll be screaming about the clock. What do? You knew as soon as Perrine was in the game, 34, hadn't caught a pass yet. He was in there probably 5 or 6 times. He goes in on 3rd downs. Anything over 3rd and 5, he's in there. He's always a threat to catch it. He hadn't caught one yet. What did he do? It was all Mahomes was thinking about. He leaked out into the left flat. He's as sure-handed as they come. Mahomes flips him the ball. He gives you one juke on the one guy who can maybe stop him short of the 1st down. He goes 17 yards, makes sure he gets tackled in bounds. Game, set, match. Without blinking an eye, because they're the Chiefs and because Andy Reid is one of the great offensive wizards in the history of the NFL. He is a genius as a coach. They went in there yesterday. The biggest play in that game was when Bedford, who had a great year out of Villanova and was one of the top corners in the league, ranked, I think, number 2 in final analysis. He was playing hurt. He had a concussion the week before. They were trying to get him in the game. They got him in the game. He was starting. He broke up a long pass with Hollywood Brown. Okay, Romo had rightly said, hey, the guy they can't lose is Benford. Next play, he collides with his own guy and gets a concussion. He's out of the game. They bring in Elam, who is I don't want to criticize him, but he can't play. Okay. And he got torched the entire game. It was like, hey, guys, it's Christmas. Okay. We got a guy that we can run anything on. We're going to run crosses on, shallow crosses on him all day. And our receiver will be over here and he'll be over here. Then we'll pick him and he'll be wide open, and we'll do this and he'll be wide open, and we'll run him off on a deep route. We'll come back on it and he'll be wide open. And he was wide open every time you moved. Mahomes knew all day, I can beat Elam's guy. And he was bad in man and worse in zone. That was the biggest difference in the game. They have Benford, they can win. They had a weak link and they took advantage of it time after time after time. You know, the week before, they were playing a team that had terrific edge rushes and terrific corners. So you know what they did? They did everything inside, so Kelce was the star. Yesterday, they were going after guys who were in man with the shallow crosses and the slants on a 3-step drop. And what did Kelce do? Nothing. Schuster caught 2 for 60. Worthy was a star. And maybe the Bills one of these years will stop making Kansas City able to get players. Oh, they made a trade in the draft to let them get Mahomes. Oh, they made a trade in the draft to let them get Worthy. Anything else? Maybe someone else you would like to help them get this year who beat you next year. You gave him Worthy. What did Worthy do yesterday? 8 catches for 89 yards and a touchdown? 7 catches for 89 yards and a touchdown? Something like that. I should have given to him. Crazy. You knew you could play them. I remember saying on draft night, why would the Bills help the Chiefs? Well, you know what? The guy you helped them get yesterday, I'm going to say 8 for 86 and a touchdown. Let me give you the exact. It was good. I think it was 8 for 86. Let me give you exact. He was 6 for 85 and a touchdown. And then he ran twice for 16 yards. So he touched the ball in the game 8 times. Touched the ball 8 times for 101 yards and a touchdown. Okay. You allowed the Chiefs to draft him. Keep doing it. The difference in that game wasn't Mahomes and Allen. The difference in that game was Andy Reid. Allen's good. Mahomes is great. Allen's great. All right. My friends, the podcast at gmail.com. In your opinion, this is Bob. Who's a better all-time tight end, Kelce or Gronk? Splitting hairs. If I could have one for a big game, I would take Gronk, but it's a 10-9 decision. I would take Gronk, but it's like I said, they're both great. It's splitting hairs. Eric, based on his resume as a coordinator, do you think Spags has a legitimate case for Hall of Fame? No. No assistant coach is going to make the Hall of Fame. Sorry. The Hall of Fame is not for assistant coaches. Sorry. He is a failed head coach. Listen, here's another guy. He's a great coordinator. He's not a good coordinator. He's a legendary coordinator. He's got rings on his rings, on his rings, on his rings, but he's not a head coach. Now, he probably wasn't put in the right spots either, but I just don't think he's a head coach. There's a perfect example. He's in the right place. Stay there and have a great career, make plenty of money. He's probably making $3 million a year now as a coordinator. And he's winning Super Bowl after Super Bowl. They love him. He's in a great place. He's not a head coach. Dylan, does Barkley's performance make this regime look bad? Of course it does. But let's be honest. Barkley would have had half that yardage or less for the Giants and missed 8 games. We know that. He went to a team that was loaded and had an outrageous offensive line. There are so many times he doesn't get hit till he's 15 yards down the field. With the Giants, he got hit 15 yards this way. I mean, going from the Giant offensive line to the Eagle offensive line is like going from Bayonne to the moon. Rick, do you think Rodgers wants to start a season with a new rookie head coach? Absolutely. I think he wants to play here next year. I'm getting that idea. I don't know Rodgers. You know, if I wanted to meet him, I'd go to Tibet or someplace like that in the off season. I mean, something like that. Hey, I think he wants to play. I think he likes to play. See, here's what I saw from Rodgers. Rodgers is an all-time great. I don't care if he's a nut or anything else. He's an all-time great. He's one of the great players in this generation. He's one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen. He doesn't want to go out this way. And you know what he showed you at the end of the season? He and Devontae Adams showed you pride. These games meant nothing. Except to them, it meant that they were again showcasing what they do. So it mattered. It mattered. Hey, you get behind center, you do your job. You show greatness. There are no small shows. You don't ever get behind a microphone and mail it in. You don't ever get behind center and mail it in. I think he wants to play again. And I think he'll play fine as long as they build a team around him and build a coaching staff that knows what the hell it's doing. They're the worst coached team last year with talent I've ever seen in my life. I have no doubt saying that. Their coaching cost them at least 6 games last year. That's how bad it was. Throw in a couple for the field goal kicker. It was an absolute joke. See you later.